Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse. This is the 7th annual, I think.
Ugh, don't like that. Makes you feel old.
I mean, I thought it was the 6th, but I think I just when I went looking to see what the last one was, I think that was the 6th. So I think we're on the 7th one. I'll know for sure when I post it, so it'll be in the title. But yes, welcome to our 2022 awards show.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we're in January 2023. Connor's not here. Unfortunately, he's too busy being in Iceland.
Yep.
So we had to do it without him. But we shall soldier on.
A pretty big life event happened for him, judging from Twitter about an hour ago.
Yes.
Did you see?
I did see. Well, I knew he was going to in advance.
You guys had no idea, so I saw it, and I can't believe.
I mean, I thought she was going to say no, obviously.
Yeah,
but...
I know, me too.
But yes,
he probably threatened the volcano, right?
That's why he wanted to go to Iceland to propose. He wanted to do it at the edge of the volcano in case she said no.
I should have said no. He's like, all right, peace, I'm out.
I mean, he didn't, he didn't like give her an ultimatum or anything. There was just an implication that if she said no, she'd be going to a volcano.
Oh, see, I took this on the opposite side. That she said no, he was going in the volcano.
He's too selfish for that.
Maybe.
He'll
anyway.
make sure everyone else goes first before he does that.
Yeah, too hot for me. All right, see you guys later. Anyways, congratulations to Connor.
Oh yes, of course, yes. I like that's how we announced it on the show.
Yeah, right.
But yes, we're going to be looking back at 2022 and picking our favorite artist of the year, favorite writer. The way we do those two things is we'll just nominate names and then we'll each pick our own favorite. And then the main part of the show is us debating and forming our top 10 books of the year. And then afterwards, I will reveal the results of the vote because we had you guys submit votes, and I will reveal what your top 10 books are based on all the votes that came in. So there'll be a top 10 ranking and top 3 writer, top 3 artist, and a few other little add-on categories as well. So we'll do all that after we do our stuff.
My wife was just wondering, so when can I expect, she's going to cook dinner and stuff tonight. And I said, well, minus Connor, me, Pete seem to line up on a lot of stuff. So it's Connor that's usually the holdout because he doesn't read the same stuff that we do and vice versa, So,
yeah.
I'm wondering how this is going to go when we start hitting the same. Because me and you mainly read the same stuff when it comes day and date. You do the Patreon stuff, but we'll see where it lines up.
I mean, that's not eligible.
No, but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
But that's the different thing that you read for the show.
Unless it was something that I was forced to read that was new, in the way that Connor's forced to read, like Robin Tim Drake, for example. Why that would be something he would nominate for, unless he secretly loves it, which is always possible.
Right? That's the Riley Rosmo spot.
Yes.
In Connor's, but yes. So I'm curious to see where we line up.
Yeah. So I think we'll start with artist. As I think is to go to. Any artist you would like to nominate off the?
I'm gonna lead with a heavy hitter, and I think it was ineligible last year because there wasn't enough issues out yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go with Greg Smallwood for Human Target.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the most obvious choices that certainly for us too, anyway, because we
every issue it's us going on and on and on about how great Smallwood is. I
mean, some books, you mention the art sort of in passing because there's not much to talk about, and then there's other books like Human Target where we sit and talk about how the art tells the story, how it helps tell the story, how it adds so much value to the book. So,
and he's such a co-creator with Tom King on it that in order to let him get caught up, they did a special Tom King worked together with some guest artists, right? And they threw that in as to not interrupt their storytelling. So I always think that's pretty cool when they do that.
Yeah. It was very expressive. A lot of like acting from the characters with their eyes, with their facial expressions. A lot of really sort of tough, impressive stuff that mimics real life in very impressive ways, which is typically why it sticks out to us, beyond just looking nice, which obviously is the first thing. That's the first impression, but
yes,
there's a story there as well. I think I have to throw out Mike Perkins, primarily for Swamp Thing. The back half of which came out this year, and it had a couple of action issues or whatever as well. But I mean, it's mainly Swamp Thing more than anything that's getting him on here. That book was just tailor made for him.
A lot of shadows, a lot of in playing with the darkness and the sketchiness, and kind of grotesque at points.
And just a lot of abstract concepts. So his art just kind of fits the idea of like talking about parliaments of gears and kind of this ethereal, otherworldly quality to a lot of these concepts that are in that Swamp Thing book. It just kind of it fit perfectly.
Yeah, that new character too. So you have a character like the Machine Lords in the Parliament of Gears, but then you had what was her name, Trinity, who was that abstract concept brought to life, and she looked like nothing else in the book. So it was a nice change of pace as well. So no, Perkins is great. Ever since the Greg Rucka Lois Lane book, which didn't seem like a perfect fit for Perkins' style. Ever since then, I've had my eye on him, and no, it hasn't disappointed yet.
Yeah. You got another name?
Let's see. I got Smallwood too. I'm trying to think about the year and if we had enough of this artist before I name them. When did Rorschach end? Did that end in 2021?
Oh yeah, that's been gone for a while.
Yeah. Okay, so that wouldn't have been.
Nah, I don't think that ended this year.
No. And I'm trying to think of some artists from Action.
I mean, if it did, then it might have squeezed in an issue. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm drawing a blank on the Nightwing artist that we love so much.
That's what I was going to say next. But
okay, well then you save that one. Who else? We got Perkins. No one else is coming to mind right now, but I'll give you one. Marcio Takara from Poison Ivy. Love 6 issues. Like the art on Wonder Woman, but in Poison Ivy, that's really where their art started to sing. And in fact, on the most recent issue, kind of felt lacking because Takara wasn't a part of it. A big fan of Takara this year.
Yeah, I can't comment because I don't read Poison Ivy, but fair enough. No, Bruno Redondo was my next name to throw out.
There it
is. As far as ongoing books goes, this is like the standout, I think, in many ways, just because Nightwing's had such a specific art style since it started. Obviously, he takes the a little mini arc off or an issue off here or there, but it's very much Taylor and Redondo's run, and those main issues that he does benefit so much from it, from the way it follows the action, from the way that it does the action layouts to sort of it was very similar to some Mark Waid era Daredevil. Not that he was the artist on that, but it was Chris Samney specifically was the artist on that. So and it reminds me a lot of that.
Yeah, it's the way that it's very clear and it's clear cut, and you can follow the action very well, almost like storyboards, but you can follow the motion because the multiple characters per page. Like we had that whole issue that was one long chase scene, and that if you were to be able to pull it out, and it wasn't back-to-back pages, it would make one long panoramic, and that's kind of that his style in Redondo style in a nutshell, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, but even when it does do like more traditional broken up layouts, it does it with the little inserts of like the close-ups of little parts of the maneuvers or where the baton's been thrown, things like that, where it really focuses on the details. So the action's always very good, but that's not to say that he's skimping on facial expressions, and the characters feel very warm. You're happy to be around them, and the art's a big part of that. Very clean style. So
yeah, for sure.
You got another one, Matt?
I'm looking, and I'm trying to think of some of them that I'm trying to go off of more than just like a mini series, because there was an artist on a mini series this year that I thoroughly enjoyed the art.
It could be a mini series. It's not.
Yeah, I'll go David Marquez for Batman Killing Time, because I just thought the art style there and the way that it was dealing with time in and of itself, and how well paced the art was in each story, and when we get to that reveal of who's behind it all, the art and the writing are working hand in hand, and it does feel like a ticking clock, which is kind of hard to do in print effectively, because you're in control of how fast you read it. And I just really think that Marquez was working peak performance there.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was a very good looking book. It was kind of very detailed. It always, it's in a weird way, it's almost like the pinnacle of like a house style. And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that as like it's so. I guess what I'm saying is it's not like a weird style. It's not like there's like a.
It's kind of idealized, right?
Yeah, it's like the ideal comic art in a lot of ways. If you don't want to have like a more, stylized approach that leans into like more abstract or more, scratchy or whatever the style might be. It's the Nightwing comparison from Redondo is ultra clean. This is kind of like the perfect median of all styles in a weird way. As Marquez, and I mean that as a compliment. I don't mean that as like a thing. I'll throw also going with the miniseries here. I'll throw out Christian Ward for Aquaman Andromeda. That had very distinct art. Kind of the opposite of what we're saying with Marquez, where it's very stylized. It's very blotchy. It really fits kind of both the idea that we're underwater, but also it's kind of an alien version of underwater, and dealing with this kind of sense of cosmic horror. And that book has pages with krakens in it. It has pages with weird sci-fi artifacts and objects and ships that are at the bottom of the ocean, and it kind of captures that sense of mystery the whole time, because it has, and there's some really colorful pages where it's like just like splotches of color to create this image. Like there's a pink glow in the water for sometimes not even for a reason, but just because it looks good, and it gives it this very sci-fi quality to it, which really gives the book identity beyond just the fun premise of like going to find the ship. So
yeah, I agree with all that. It was it's very moody in parts, and it adds to the overall tone of that book. Goes with Ram V's writing very well, plays with a lot of the psychological tropes that were at play there. When it kept jumping back and forth, there's little subtleties to the art that let you know where you were. So but yeah, really good. Christian Ward's great.
Absolutely. You got another one?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with I just started looking at stuff. Jorge Jimenez this year, just absolutely killing it on Batman. The Zdarsky stuff, and I believe he had done stuff right before then too. There was a slight break, but just like we were talking about Marquez on my last one that I brought up, it kind of idealized. Jimenez is like that, but it's Jimenez when you look at it. Certain angles.
So it's a lot more distinct. Yeah, I will say this: the issues he did of Batman were the action sequences were very, very well done.
Yeah.
They stuck out immensely. The motion of them, and like Batman fighting the robot whose name I forget. Failsafe. That's the one.
Failsafe. Failsafe the Terminator.
Yeah, like the entire car chase where he hunts them down. All the other Bat family members come out on their bikes and stuff. Yeah, all that stuff was great.
Really, really good. And then just like the way that he draws Babs, I'm a big fan of too. There's a certain style he brings to her. There's a snarkiness through her facial expressions that just kind of nails. So yeah, no, Jimenez really, really good.
Yeah. I think a few quick mentions have to be given to like Alvaro Martinez Bueno for
Mm-hmm.
Nice House in the Lake, which has a number of issues this year spread out over the year.
Mm-hmm.
Always good, always very atmospheric, always very moody to fit the sense of mystery that's in that book. The characters feel kind of trapped and alone in the dark, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I would definitely give props to that. I think Dan Mora for World's Finest, you kind of have to give
That
a
was my
shout.
next one I was going to bring up. Is I can't believe it took me this long to get to Dan Mora. That was another one I should have brought up earlier, but my brain's not acting.
And admittedly, it's only. I mean, to be fair, I suppose my Aquaman Andromeda example is only 3 issues as well, but Shaner for Shazam.
That was one I hesitated on because of a miniseries, right? It was because of that. But I feel like you can give it to Ward because those are prestige, There's a lot more pages to those.
Yeah, they are double sized, yeah.
Yeah, so, no, Shaner, I will gladly wait for more Shaner stuff if it takes that long. So, but yeah, Mora and Shaner were my next 2 as well.
Yeah. Is there any other ones you wanted to mention? Any shout outs?
I'm going through and nothing. I mean, nothing for the end of the year. Just a lot of stuff to highlight. Like you had towards the end of the year, you had Mahmoud Asrar doing the Batman versus Robin. I thought the art there was always worth talking about.
Yeah, I mean, we had the last 2 of 3 issues of Batman One Dark Knight, which was Jock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was very good.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, because Jock's art's fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's kind of that thing where it's only 2 issues out of the year, so you kind of lean towards giving it to someone who is, more prolific and done like a good number of issues or pages, perhaps, if you might put it that way. Not that it should matter, that much. I'm not saying someone who has 12 issues out this year versus 6, like they should have an advantage, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy to pick my winner just now. I don't know if you've got.
Yeah, I have my winner for sure.
All right, who's your winner? Who's your artist of the year?
For me, it's Greg Smallwood for Human Target.
I have to agree with Greg Smallwood. I mean, the way we talked about his art every time, I think made it quite obvious that we were going to pick him for the year.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's many, like some of the One Bad Day artists obviously were very good, but one shots, things like that. So, like. I think Smallwood was consistently this thing that we looked forward to as part of that book, where it felt like an exceptional piece of the storytelling every single time. So,
For sure.
Yeah. It's obviously a lot of good art this year, but I still feel like it needs a choice. And maybe part of that is because Smallwood is relatively new to us, in the DC world. Yeah.
Smallwood, liking Human Target so much made me go track down Vampironica, an Archie book, because he did the art in the first couple issues and then did the breakdowns in the final 2, I think. So those first 2 issues look absolutely fantastic. It's Archie meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and he delivers on that. So that's how powerful Greg Smallwood is.
Yeah. Well. Okay, we're both giving it to Greg Smallwood. Congratulations, the I don't have a name for the award. I'm sorry.
Hey, it would be the artist of the year.
I was no, I know that, but I mean, like the same way you say the Oscar goes to, I was like the nah, I couldn't think of one. It's fine. We'll move on.
The Versi.
No, not really feeling it. So we'll move on to writer of the year. I mean, there's some obvious names to throw out, I suppose. I'll just say it, Tom Taylor.
There, I was letting you have your guy. He is our patron saint on the show. So
it's funny because I think this year he's specifically nominated for Nightwing for me, and it's not that I think Superman Son of Kal-El was solid, but it had its weak spots. I think Dark Knights of Steel is relatively solid, but it has its weak spots for me as well. I think Nightwing is so head and shoulders above those 2. that for me, that's what I'm saying I'm nominating him for. I'm nominating him for Nightwing specifically. It's nice that he's written other things this year, but Nightwing's what I'm saying I'm putting him up for.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's hard to disagree with any of that because it is like his Superman, Son of Kal-El, has been decent, but there's been a couple off issues and just little things that we've noticed from his writing that carried over. And I think I like Dark Knight of Steel a little bit more than you do because I get down with the fantasy a little bit more. But that's just been a fun multiverse book, right? Playing with tropes and concepts that are well worn in DC. But yeah, no, his Nightwing, just issue after issue. I mean, he made us feel the importance of Rick Grayson, a concept that we, I don't want to say we hated because we didn't really read it. We did not like when it happened.
I think you can say we hated the concept of it. Yeah,
but Rick Grayson showing up in an issue here and us getting to the end of that and go, I gotta know what happens. Like neither of us, if I remember right, were that annoyed by it. We're just like, all right, Taylor, we trust you enough to see where this goes. And I think that right there is a miracle.
Yeah, no. Nightwing has been the strength this year, and he's been writing 2 other books that have been relatively Darkness of Steel's not been that consistent in the back half of the year, but it still had a good number of issues this year, and then obviously Superman was all year as well. He's doing the mini as well for that, and obviously Deceased just came back. You have to throw that into the mix. So no, really good stuff. The other obvious name is probably Tom King, just because Human Target is one of the standouts of the year. Yep. Supergirl did just squeak into the start of the year. The last issue of that was the start of the year. And on the other end, Danger Streets just squeaked in at the other end. Yeah. So,
well, and you also have Killing Time in there.
Yeah, Killing Time.
That was Tom King. So yeah, the Riddler special, that was one issue.
And honestly, that Riddler special was phenomenal. So it's weird. It really says something that Killing Time I would say is easily the weakest out of all those things, but it was still very, very good.
Yeah, and I still, because I read so much comics that sometimes I forget what I've read, but when it comes to Tom King, I never forget those. They do make an imprint, and even something like you said with Killing Time, I remember the big beats of that, like the introduction of the Help. Like, that's a character that, Tom King has said he's going to use again and will be relevant soon enough. And that's super exciting. So, but yeah, just, Human Target, my favorite book basically every month. I look forward to it. What it's doing with the, Justice League International is, it honors those characters while also breaking them down, and the mystery at play is one that I still haven't quite yet figured out. And we have 2 issues left after this most recent one. So it's keeping me occupied all the way through. So
yeah, and they're very different stories as well. Even though you can definitely recognize some of the same voice between some of the books. Like, I would say Rorschach has a very similar voice to Danger Street. They're very different in other ways, but I would say I can sort of feel the same type of narration in both of those. Whereas I wouldn't say I feel the same in Human Target to those, but Human Target I would say maybe feels a bit closer to maybe Strange Adventures in terms of like a tone. Like, there's definitely things that connect them. But
and I'm almost wondering if that's just the eras of comics that he's pulling from, right? Whereas Rorschach and Danger Street are from these very cynical, late 70s, early 80s, cynical time with comics. Whereas with Strange Adventures, we're looking at the halcyon days of the Silver Age, and with Human Target, it's this kind of wacky later 80s, early 90s, where the tones are just different. And
yeah, it's interesting that Human Target is kind of the flip of Strange Adventures, and that Strange Adventures was all about teasing, okay, what happened in the past that Adam Strange isn't talking about, right? And Human Target, which I suppose is more traditional in the sense that most stories build up to something happening in the future, but Human Target is very specifically counting down to like how it ends and what's really going on. So we're kind of like going down to it. So it's kind of funny how they're the flip of each other. But
that's so good.
King's not spotless, of course. Heroes in Crisis. No, obviously not this year, but he had Heroes in Crisis. He had some dodgy parts of Batman, and even Batman Catwoman, which I think ended this year.
Yeah, that was the one I would say that, you know, if something was going to knock him out of the top spot, Batman Catwoman did not stick its landing.
Yeah, but that only had like what, 1 or 2 issues this year.
Yeah, so I wasn't even counting it. But again, I remember stuff in that book, good or bad, right? It always makes an impression, and that's, to me, I feel like
it's never just bland. It's never just that was a comic. There's always something to talk about. All right, I mean, I suppose Philip Kennedy Johnson's another
there you go.
possible pick. Obviously, really just for Action Comics. I don't think he's done anything else really this year. A DC specifically.
For DC, I'm thinking maybe some one-off specials. I feel like he did a story, I feel, in one of the Justice League, you know.
Sure, yeah. I'm never going to remember who writes those shorts, though.
I'm sure he does, but yeah, I mean, we can't get over enough how good his Action Comics run has been. That's another one that...
Yeah, and a lot of the Warworld saga was this year. You know, it started in 2021, but the bulk of it was in 2022, and obviously we've been seeing a little glimpse of what it's going to be like after the Warworld saga in the last couple of months, but that's been very good. I think another obvious name is Ram V, because Ram V...
There it is.
You know, and he's kind of lucky in that like half of his Swamp Thing was last year, so he's going to get equal number bit of praise this year. But the thing is that I would say the back half of Swamp Thing was even better than the first half.
Yeah.
So
it was one of those things where we'd heard like, oh yeah, if it did super well, it was going to get these other 6 issues, and I'm so glad, you know, because those 6 issues are for me the meat of the story.
Yeah, they made the whole like, I mean, not that obviously it was good before because we all liked it, but it made the whole story click. It made it was like, okay, I get what this whole thing is now, and so I'm so happy. And obviously on top of that, I don't know, did some of his Catwoman bleed into this year?
I wouldn't be certain in saying yes, but I feel like it did, because I feel like I stopped reading.
This is the problem with
Tini Howard stuff this year, I feel.
Yeah. But even if not, obviously his Detective Comics run did start this year, and we've had the first arc and a bit of that, so we've had a sort of decent enough sample size, and I think what's interesting about that is that I wasn't necessarily in love with the sort of like overall aesthetic that he was going for with it, but as the story played out, the way it's sort of diving into some of the you know, the way Gotham works and the villains within Gotham and Batman's identity and the stuff that's just doing with Two-Face and like his kind of tragic side of the story, like there's a lot of depth to it that any misgivings I might have had right at the start, it's like they've all just sort of crumbled away because the storytelling is quite good. I wasn't into the angle so much, but that's not a big deal, you know?
Yeah, no, I was though. So I liked what it was saying with Gotham, and you can tell he's telling a story on multiple levels, which is a very Ram V, you know, storytelling point at this point.
Yeah.
Also, he did Aquaman Andromeda, you know, this year.
Oh, of course, yeah. Which obviously I mentioned, but the art, yeah.
Right. And I feel like there was one more. I feel like I'm forgetting that he had done, but it's escaping me right now. But yeah, just Ram V firing all cylinders right now. So look forward to Detective.
I mean, for me, those are the 4 real options. I don't know if there's any other names you want to throw out as a...
I mean, Mark Waid coming in and just telling a world's finest story.
I mean, it has been exciting to have him back. Like, and I've enjoyed everything he's done. But I wouldn't hold any of it up next to some of these examples that I've given of these 4. Yeah. And if anything, I'm probably not going to pick Philip Kennedy Johnson just because it is just action, even though you know it's been really great. I think the 3 other ones that I've mentioned, Taylor, King, and V, like all 3 of them, it feels like they had multiple books and they've had incredible highs in 2022.
Well, and they're spinning all their plates very well. Right?
Yeah.
Is they're all good in their own ways. Some we enjoy more than others.
And
but
I think this might surprise you because I'm fairly certain we all gave it to Taylor last year. I wouldn't be surprised if we did or didn't. But I think I'm going to go with King this year, and the reason why.
Get out of my head.
Well, the reason why is because what we said. Like Nightwing is like freaking amazing. I love it, but Taylor's other books, I'm just enjoying. I don't think they're up to the same standard as Nightwing or some of his other books in the past. I think Nightwing is killing it and maybe the best he's ever been. But King, Human Target, End of Supergirl, start of Danger Street, and Killing Time, that Riddler, Batman One Bad Day Riddler, the amount of high quality stories throughout the year. If anything, I probably would, if I was to rank them, I'd probably put King, then Ram V, and then Taylor. For 2022.
God, that's what I was talking about at the beginning of the show when we are going to probably line up on stuff. Because that's where I was at. Is I thought about this one today. I thought about the writers more than artists, and that's just how my brain goes, right? Today, when I had some spare time at work, and that's what I had come up with. That list was King, Ram V, and then Tom Taylor. Because all three of those names are the books that I save for last usually.
Those are like Mount Rushmore DC right now, I would say, in terms of what we're excited for typically each month. And I think they're very close. I think I could have picked Ram V over King if Human Target was just slightly less good, or if But ultimately, I feel like King gave us the best conversations this year. I feel like it's a very similar list of names to what we talked about in 2021, but I feel like, maybe with the exception of Taylor to an extent, I think both Ram V and Tom King had even better years in 2022.
Very strong years. I mean, Tom King, I feel like he's rebounded, because the year before, we had talked about, I remember specifically Supergirl and Rorschach, and they were both really, really high. But
I'm pretty sure Strange Adventures probably was still finishing in 2021 as well. I think so.
Probably that too, yeah.
Yeah, I was probably finishing that year.
But we eventually gave it to Taylor for the multitudes of other works, right? And I feel like it's the same case for King this year, is the highs were that much higher and more sustained, right? Than
and I think part of it is Taylor Nightwing was new in 2021.
Right.
It's not new in 2022. Arguably, it's even better in 2022. But what King's doing, he's doing mostly new things again. Right. And he doesn't have Batman, Catwoman kind of weighing him down this time. Like I said, there may have been an issue too early on in the year, but it wasn't that much of a detractor compared to the previous year. And of course, Ram V, like I said, back half of Swamp Thing, even better than the first half. Detective's been a great solid run. The Aquaman Andromeda book been really good stuff. So, so my pick is Tom King. Which I'm sure it's not the first time he's had this. He might have had it early on.
Years before,
Either when he was doing...
It was either Mr. Miracle or...
early Batman sort of time, He could have won it then, but I can't remember. So someone can go back and check and give us who's won each year.
I mean, and at this point, he's written one of my favorite Green Lantern stories. He's written one of my favorite Batman stories. So... he's just going to keep knocking them out at this point. Give him enough time.
Yeah. All I can say is DC, keep Tom Taylor, Tom King, and Ram V employed and keep giving them stuff to do. Yeah. So thank you. So, All right, there you go. So we will now debate and create the Comics from the Multiverse top 10 series. Doesn't have to be ongoings. It can be miniseries, of course. For the sake of this, I will count Batman One Bad Day as a series, if that makes sense. There's as a sort of anthology series. So
you're not gonna have anything to worry about for me for that one. I don't think that entered my top 10. So maybe it did for you.
Well, I think if you count it as a series, it probably doesn't, because even though I've enjoyed all of them pretty much to some extent. It's not like the rest of them were as good as that Riddler issue.
That Riddler one was peaks, So if we were just doing issues of the year, then I would, but
you can never remember all the individual issues though, so it's impossible to do top 10 issues of the year.
Yeah.
I've tried to do it in the past, and it's just anything that's older than 2 months, barring one or two one shots that might stick out on their own, it's just impossible to narrow them down.
Right.
So. Yeah, so what we'll just do, we'll just go back and forward and nominating books. We're not putting them in order yet. We're just sort of creating the short list of books that we'll consider, and then we'll sort of cut away and we'll sort after. So Matt, give me a nomination. Just whatever comes to mind first.
I'm in a Human Target.
All right, the Human target, I will say Nightwing, obviously. Go on, you go.
All right, curveball, The Flash.
Okay. I will say Action Comics.
Mm.
Go on.
Let's see, what else do I want to nominate? Let's go Swamp Thing.
The Swamp Thing.
Yeah, let's go Swamp Thing.
I'll say Detective Comics since you gave me that one. On you go.
Shoot. This is how I know I read too much comic books, because putting it on the spot, I know there's stuff that I really, really love that hasn't been mentioned yet.
Well, I'll throw in The Nice House on the Lake.
There you go, Nice House. I'll throw in Poison Ivy.
Okay. We have to fight for that one a bit, but
Yeah,
I'll...
For sure.
Aquaman Andromeda, I think, is another shout.
So where Connor always comes in handy too, because,
It's a rare occasion, but yeah, I suppose.
Yes,
I suppose.
yes.
Well, I'll throw in Rogues since you're not Brent.
Yes. How we got that far without talking about Rogues? Yeah.
Yeah. Not Rogues is
Rogues
a
is a good
biggie.
one. Yes, sir.
Also, new champion of Shazam. I mean, technically it's only 3 issues, but it's 3 or 4. So
I feel like it's gonna stick the landing though, because we've liked that enough. So I would put it in there.
I think that's the sort of thing where we might not put it high up in the top 10
No.
because it's only 3 issues. And again, I know some of these other minis are only 3 issues, but they're full, complete stories that you can judge as a whole. Whereas we don't know the ending of the new champion of Shazam yet.
Right.
But I do think it's worth the conversation. I think World's Finest deserves a look here.
I was gonna sneak that one in towards the end.
Well, we're not doing any order. This is no order.
No, I know. But when we were getting when you pull do you have any more? And I was gonna throw that one out.
Okay. Well, do you got anything else for me now?
I'm trying to look. I'm trying to think of some of the Batman minis that we read this year that weren't One Dark Knight, but there was a couple of them I feel like that were out.
Batman minis.
Or maybe that was the year before.
Flashpoint Beyond? Is that what you're getting at?
Nah, I don't know if that's gonna be the top 10, but we can have a fun discussion about it.
Yeah. I mean, Williamson's Robin was still
Robin,
a significant chunk of this year.
I fought for that one last year, I remember.
I'd have to go back and check how much of the year it had been there, but I feel like it was still half the year, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because then it got into Batman vs. Robin in about August. So yeah.
I'm not sure it will be top 10, but maybe what you were trying to think of before was Batman the Night.
Yes, there it is. How did I forget Batman the Night with Gia Domenico on art the whole time?
Suddenly Matt's regretting the debates of the previous categories.
Yep. The Night was really good.
Yeah. I will. Oh, Batman Killing Time. I'm not mentioning that yet.
Killing Time. I'm put that one in there.
And
then, see, Zdarsky. If I had remembered the Night, I would have had Zdarsky in the author discussions.
Yeah, you wouldn't have picked them though, probably though, right?
No, it was still Tom King. It's always has been.
Tom King, then, now, forever.
Yeah, together.
Not together.
No.
The man fired his own daughter. There's no together in this. So, not Tom King. For anyone who didn't get that reference, I'm not talking about Tom King. He's not fired his daughter.
That was very, very deep inside.
Yeah, I don't know if Tom King has a daughter, but I'm sure if he does, she's probably a child. So there's no firing of any kind. Unless he's really strict when he punishes his kids.
Let's see. Yeah, no, Killing Time, definitely. The Night.
Who didn't do their chores? Daddy's whipping out the flamethrower.
God, that's dark. You said action, right?
I did say action, yes. It's interesting neither of us have said Batman yet.
No, because that wasn't really the strongest this year. Like, it was fine. I mean, we've had fun with Zdarsky on it, but
Zdarsky's only been the last half. Like, the first half of it was still Tynan.
Yeah, and I don't think we were big on that one, right? That was still the end of Fear Street, right?
Yeah, no, but it's worth mentioning and at least discounting. So,
well, also wasn't the Tower this year in tech? So we can factor that in too with Tamaki.
Well, yeah, but we've got Detective already.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
now that that I remembered.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But
Yeah.
oh yeah, it's a shame I didn't say Tamaki when we were talking about authors. Actually, I wasn't thinking of that. But
it's okay. We all have our moments.
Yeah. But I do like Tamaki's writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I would want to champion. Actually, Joe, I'm looking at the playlists on our YouTube page because they're sorted by creation. So even though there's a lot of old stuff mixed in, I can kind of gauge some of the things that have been out this year.
I do think it's funny that in a year that had a crisis, neither of us have brought it up. I just think that's funny.
I mean, yeah, I still think it's top 10 material.
Or Williamson, who I'm a big fan of, but nothing this year I think was worthy of the top 10.
I'm more hit and miss on Williamson, I would say.
Well, sure.
So it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through.
I'd be tempted to. I don't know if it's going to make on a joint list, but like GCPD, The Blue Wall might actually squeak onto mine because it is quite good.
Okay. That could be your point, since I haven't read any of that. That could be your, poison ivy spot.
Obviously, it's just too soon to even think about including either Stargirl or Justice Society of America. Same with Danger Street. It's only had one issue. We just can't include these things, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I think we might be.
I think that's good. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that's coming up on here that we have read. A lot of as I'm looking through, a lot of people were liking the Urban Legends book just because having an anthology style book out there.
I'll throw Batgirls down because I actually think that book improved. If I was to give an award out for most improved over the course of the year, I would probably give it to Batgirls. I don't necessarily think I'm going to fight for it to be in the top 10. At least depending on how the top 10's looking. If I think there's some crap on there that you're forcing, I might fight you. But as it is, I don't think I would put it on there.
Yeah, something up on there too, where it's been not long enough yet, is the Gotham City Year One. I mean, that's another one that's.
It's kind of sad that neither of us are even thinking about suggesting DC versus Vampires.
It didn't stick the landing, and it's left a bad taste in my mouth. So maybe the first half.
Yeah, but even Jurassic League, I feel like we enjoyed it well enough, but I don't think either of us would want it on a top 10.
No, because then I read Daniel Warren Johnson's Do a Powerbomb, and that's a great story, right? That's something that's worthy of the top 10. Jurassic League is fun, but that's
not eligible for us though, Matt.
Yeah. No, I know, but I'm talking the same creator, right?
Yeah.
Like different, similar fun vibes, but just completely different stories. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it's time to sort and maybe start deleting some of these options. So there's 17 books written down.
That's a pretty good number
at the moment. So I think, given the way we talked earlier, it's probably pretty obvious that Human Target's going to be number one, right?
Yep.
This is the beauty of Connor not being here. Connor would be fighting us on this so much.
Well, here's the thing, and I feel like if it was written by anybody else, Connor would love Human Target. Right? If this was pick just a random writer that we all like, that's not Tom Taylor, I feel like
Scott Lobdell.
Same exact story, same exact everything else, Connor would like it. It's just the name he can't get over. Especially because it's Justice League International. Like me and him both love the JLI, so
I can't believe Matt just no-selling me saying Scott Lobdell to that question.
Because I that was one of those ones where I'm not going to acknowledge it.
Okay.
So number 2, I feel.
I mean, it's either Nightwing or Swamp Thing, right?
Yeah. And now here's the question: what is the last half of Swamp Thing? Did it achieve higher heights than a year of Nightwing? Because there was some kind of lower points in Nightwing this year. Where we were like, oh, this is okay. You remember it tied in to, what was it, Fear State?
For 2 months, yeah. I had 2 months where it was tying into that. I think...
But it also had that great annual about the origin of Heartless That was good.
I'm still tempted to put Nightwing at number 2 over Swamp Thing at number 3 because I think Nightwing's doing such a good long form serialized story where, you know, the build up to Heartless making his play in the city and the stuff with Blockbuster, the new teases to Nightwing's future. I think I would argue that Nightwing should just edge it out and be number 2 with Swamp Thing at number 3.
I was playing devil's advocate because in my head it's already number 2. So
okay, there you go. We've got Human Target, Nightwing, Swamp Thing. We've top 3. After that,
this is where it gets to Swamp Thing or Detective. And with Detective,
well, I thought we agreed Swamp Thing was number 3. I didn't think we were still debating that.
Okay, you're gonna put Swamp Thing at 3?
I think Swamp Thing's at 3.
Okay, so now I'll go with my other, because it applies here too. Action or Detective?
Yeah, I would say Action, Detective, and Nice House in the Lake would be the 3 that I would say are competing for the next sort of tier.
So as I was gonna say with Detective, we had the Tower, which we mostly enjoyed. That was a nice weekly storytelling.
And that was March, so we had a couple of Tamaki issues before that as well.
Yeah.
The only downside to Detective, I'd say, this year is that arc that she co-wrote with someone else that wasn't all her after the Tower.
With the Riddler, it was kind of wonky.
But that was a few months, and then we've had Ram V's run.
Yep.
Action Comics it's had
across the board.
It's had a pretty strong year with the War World stuff. Some of the rotating artists did hurt it a little bit towards the end of that. I would say.
Yeah. So I'm willing to put that one over Tech.
I think I would
over Tech.
I think I would agree with that. Although I would say one of the arguments for Tech, just in Tech's favor a little bit, is that because it was weekly while the Tower was on, it actually has a good chunk more issues. It has almost double the amount of issues.
True.
So even if you take off those, like that one bad arc, or not even bad, just it was okay. It was so. You still have equal a number of good issues, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say, to the good issues of Action. But
there's one thing that Tech didn't have that Action did, and that's Bibbo. So we had Bibbo trying to fight new gods at a zoo. So
well, here's a question:
for that moment alone,
do you think Nice House in the Lake should be either Action or Detective?
I don't think so. Just because it was, like, yes, it's a very strongly told story. I felt some of the art towards the back half, it kind of was getting a little bit, it was good, but it wasn't at its height that it was. And then, it wasn't coming out as regularly, I felt. Right? Because I felt like there were big chunks in between that we kind of spaced. I remember when we would talk about what was coming out next week, we'd be surprised about Nice House. And it was like a nice little treat, but it wasn't, because it wasn't in our forefront of our mind in the way that Action or Detective were.
Yeah, okay. Do you think...
So I would go Action, Tech, Nice House.
Yeah. Is there anything you would think should go above Night House after that, though? Do you think, like, I'd say Aquaman Andromeda should be above Nice House in the Lake? I don't think it should be, but I'm just playing devil's advocate for the sake of it.
I mean, I would say it's more consistent, but... man, those issues, like, Nice House really went places.
It did, yeah. And
so
the ending's very fresh in my head.
Well, and not just that, but the steps that it took to get there. Like I just talked about, there was big gaps in between, but it was easy to pick up right where we left off. Yeah. So that's a good, well-told story.
Well, with Nice House, that's number 6 then. So we got 4 slots left. Right. I do think Andromeda should make the list somewhere.
Yes, Andromeda should be in the top 10. We both enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I think World's Finest should be in there. So that's one that I would go through.
That's fair. Would you?
We had Dan Mora, Mark Waid.
Would you put it above Andromeda or below Andromeda?
No, I would put Andromeda above World's Finest.
Okay. All right. So tentatively at 7 and 8 is Andromeda and World's Finest, but there's a few other things to consider. Like, would Rogue slot in above either?
Now I might even put Rogues, but this is because I'm a Flash mark, if you will, to borrow a wrestling term. And it was probably Williamson's best thing he did this year.
I think it's easily the best thing Williamson did this year.
Yeah, I would probably put that above Andromeda, but that's just me.
Not only are neither of us suggesting Dark Crisis, neither of us are even remembering to mention like what Justice Incarnate or whatever came right
Yeah,
before
just Incarnate, and then yeah.
Yeah,
So
like, it's not even a consideration.
no.
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm happy with Rogues making. I don't know if I'd put it above.
Mhm.
I certainly wouldn't put above Andromeda. I think Andromeda's better than Rogues.
Okay.
World's Finest. I would put. I'd accept it above World's Finest if you want to put it above World's Finest.
That works. That works. So then we would go Andromeda, Rogues, World's Finest.
Which would leave one slot open.
Right. And like I know I suggested Ivy, right? I know it's not going to get it. So I have one that I'm willing to fight for. And this is a conclusion I came to today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we're deleting Poison Ivy then, because you're accepting that's not winning, I kind of feel the same with Batgirls. I wanted to mention it, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be there.
Okay.
Same as Superman Son of Kal-El, which we didn't actually mention earlier, but I'll mention it now. I don't think either Batman the Night or Killing Time should be that number 10.
Mm-mm.
So we can exclude them. I don't think GCPD gets in over other things. I don't think Robin gets in, even though I enjoyed that quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Which means it's between the Flash and the new champion of Shazam.
Yep. So I'm here to go to bat for the Flash, in that this is a book that I got away from, and that I kept hearing Pete talk about, and I would tune in and out from when he was talking, but he would say certain things that would pull me right back in. So then over the course of early part of last year, I got caught up on the issues I had missed. And it has been consistently one of my favorite books every month. Jeremy Adams really understands what makes Wally work as a character. And as I was reading the most recent issue earlier, it might have been last night, but then today as I was thinking about it, I came to that. Is like, wow, this is like a low-key underrated book. Like, I see people talking about how good The Flash is, but it never gets like the spotlight. Everyone's just like, oh yeah, it's a really good book. Adams has really taken the whole concept of Flash family and really made it feel like a family book, right? That Wally is a family man, but we've seen the other members of the Flash family step up and help him out with certain things. Whether it's looking for Barry, right? We had the tie-in to Dark Crisis, or it's help with the kids, when they got lost in, the different areas. Yeah, was the Eclipso story this year? Or was that the year before?
I think that was this year, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you had the Flash family members pop up to help Wally, come in. And then even adding members, like Irie's friend Maxine, who happens to be, Animal Man's daughter, right? So like, it's just this very, nice little chunk of family dynamics in a superhero book in a way that feels like a Mark Waid Flash book and a Jeff Johns. And that hits right in my sweet spot. So, and just the fact that every issue this year, has been pretty good, I would say. I mean, there's been some whiffs a little bit, but it's never for a long term. But yeah, consistently one of my favorites, and that's why I would put it in at 10.
I'm conflicted because I've been enjoying The Flash, and I do think the last issue, which if there was one this week, not that one, I've not read that yet, but the last one we did in the show, I thought was a really solid issue that was a really good take, and I do think it's a really good comfort food book. It's always a nice, pleasant read. Although I wasn't necessarily as into the Eclipso part of that Eclipso arc that much in Gem World. I like the stuff with the kids and their misadventures on their own during that arc. I would say New Champion of Shazam is kind of batting at a higher level, arguably not for as long because it's only been 3 out of 4 issues. And I would also argue that while the art in Flash is really solid, I've been really enjoying it. Shaner's art.
You can't pull the Shaner card.
What do you mean I can't pull the Shaner? We're comparing the books. The Shaner card is one of his biggest cards.
Yeah, I know, but that's the biggest card. Josie Campbell's great. Don't get me wrong. The story's been great. I love Mary. But yeah, you can pull the Shaner card after I just put this impassioned plea to the Flash,
What?
and then you're like, yeah, but Doc Shader. I'm like, no, he has a point.
I know I've got a point. Damn it. I know I've got a point. That said, though, I will let you have it. I'll let you have Flash at number 10.
Shocked.
Um,
Shocked. Yeah. No,
well,
I
I feel like there's a lot of passion, and typically when I do these lists with the movie stuff with Tim or Tara, my logic tends to be that if it comes down to like debating two things, if one of us seems more passionate for whatever reason, that should probably outweigh the other person if they just logically like something a bit more.
Oh my god, this would go so sideways with Tim. How do you do stuff with him? Because when Tim really likes something, he really likes it. I remember that, and it's something he didn't even really like.
It's just
it's Hellboy.
It's a simple case of going in, knowing what battles you want to fight for, and
fair enough.
I hey, when you get to like early March and my and Tim's Streams After Midnight Top 10 Horror Movies episode goes out, you'll see a very debated list.
Oh boy.
And there's like a bonus that's kind of like this part of this show where we on Patreon you can see us making the list and like the fighting that ensued with
I can't imagine. Oh, Timmy.
Well, if you pony up the Patreon money, Mike, you can find out in March.
I know. I'm just saying, I know how Tim is, and I know when Tim really likes something, he really likes it regardless. So, it's
he's a menace, yes.
Yeah, it's the immovable object versus the unstoppable force.
Yeah, so that was probably a lot smoother than it was, because if Connor was here, he would have things probably that neither of us read and would be arguing for slots. And he'd probably have to get at least one thing that was just his onto the top 10. So,
well, I feel like we each would have too. So, I mean, and I really feel that's where the Flash would have come in for me. I don't know what would have been, and maybe you could have gotten Shazam, because I feel like Connor would,
I don't think
would
so.
Be real high on that.
Because if there was like two things dropping out of this list, I'd have been too busy fighting for like maybe Andromeda or something to make sure that got on. So I don't know. But anyway, the top 10 is complete.
Really smooth.
Yeah. So number 10, I'll just reveal them I'll say them in reverse orders to get the proper reveal, if you will. Number 10 is The Flash. Number 9 is World's Finest. Number 8 is Rogues. Number 7 is Aquaman Andromeda. Number 6 is The Nice House on the Lake. Number 5 is Detective Comics. Number 4 is Action Comics. Number 3 is The Swamp Thing. Number 2, Nightwing. And number 1, The Human Target. And that is our top 10 books of 2022. So there you go. Yeah.
I was leaving room for the scissors there, so I don't want to ruin it.
Well, looking back at 2022 for DC, as far as comics go, relatively straightforward. Yeah, technically there was a crisis, which was ultimately kind of messy and whatever in the end. But really all the turmoil came from the non-comic side of things. It was, a Batgirl movie existed, and then it didn't. Stuff like that. The DC TV shows feel like they're all dwindling to, like, the CW has one of the shows left in Superman and Lois, and they're starting a new one. But given the way things have been going there, it feels like that show's days are numbered. Is all
Oh, wait, I thought the Flash was having their final season.
Yeah, they're getting their final season, but that's done after that.
Yeah.
So that's going to be done by summer, and then that's it. Like. The entire Arrowverse, if you want to call it that, is all gone.
End of an era.
Yeah. And sadly, kind of with a whimper. I think Supergirl kind of got a proper ending because I think Benoist wanted to leave, so they kind of knew that was going. Whereas it's Legends of Tomorrow just got cancelled, and so did Batwoman, that just got cancelled. I forget there was a Batwoman show sometimes because it got to a point there was a Naomi show for one season, Matt. I don't know if you remember that happening, but
I do, and only remember because of going back and reading comics and getting caught up. You would see the ads, right?
Yeah, I mean,
and
if we're
Naomi ad,
if we're dipping into our disappointments of the year. Naomi season 2, bit of a disappointment, I think, because it didn't really do what we.
Sure.
It didn't focus on the elements that make the book good. It kind of just went for just mindless action.
Yeah, and it started off strong though. We got some good moments with Naomi and her friends and their parents, and those quiet moments that we kind of liked that Bendis was good at, and then it became its worst version of itself that we didn't like. So
Yeah, and then the obvious one we kind of mentioned earlier is DC versus Vampires, going from being this really fun inventive Elseworld to just the back half being kind of repetitive and spinning its wheels to a very unsatisfying conclusion. So, yeah.
There was a thing with Rosenberg where I was high on him early on in the year. He did that backup, right, of the kid that was coming up through Gotham. And it was so good, and it stuck its landing, and then everything from Rosenberg from there on out has just been, I don't want to say diminishing returns, because Wildcats is pretty okay. And Vampires, you feel like there's definitely, once we got to issue 7, there was a break in storytelling style, so that was kind of disappointing for me, because I went in and pretty high on him. A lot of my friends are fans of his indie work, and we're talking him up big time. And not that it's not enjoyable, it was just wasn't that the highs of that backup that I enjoyed so much.
Also, Matt, I just realized that in all those Tom King conversations we've had so far, we didn't mention Gotham City Year One.
Yeah, because that still feels kind of new. Like, we're 3 to 4 issues in out of 6.
3 out of 6, yeah. It's halfway through. But yeah, we mentioned Danger Street, and that's only had 1 issue. I've just
True.
It never came up in the conversation for some reason.
Yeah, it is that good though.
It's another reason why he was picked.
He's top. Yeah.
But there you go.
Killing it.
Just worth mentioning is all. So yeah, kind of a quiet year for the comics themselves. There were some good things though, like DC Universe Infinite. Made that big change where now if you get the better tier, you get the comics 3 months after they come out, stuff like that, which is a good move. Honestly, the date goes day and date. Actually, not 3 months. Sorry, 1 month. 3 months is the Marvel one. Sorry. Yeah. I'm mixing up my services. 1 month after the date it comes out, which is a big deal.
I was waiting for the comments for people to correct Pete. That's why I let that slide.
Well, tough.
Yeah, you caught yourself though. You caught it.
I did catch myself because I'm like, 3 months isn't that impressive. Yes, because it was 1 month. It was more shocking than that. So yeah. As for other media, I mean, I am kind of sick of a lot of superhero movies and stuff like that. But the Batman was really good. Like, that was a genuinely great movie. In a time where I'm not looking forward to any other DC movie right now. Which includes the weird musical that is Joker 2, apparently. But
I just don't want to talk about that.
But yeah, so yeah, DC's year has been, I would say it's been uneventful, except for the movies and TV side where everything's being cancelled, and the like that thing that happened to Batgirl. It's not just unique amongst comic book movies. That's just unique in the movie industry in general. That does not happen typically, where they just pull a movie like that.
Yeah, just as a write-off. It's so weird.
Sometimes a movie will get shelved for a little while, but it'll always eventually come out. But because of the reasons why they're doing this, like that thing's just gone. At least for a long time, until maybe one day someone else in charge decides to release it.
And it's so sad because it had Brendan Fraser in it too, right? And he's had this come up and this glow up again, reminding us all that we love him.
He's got his prestige movie out though. He's got The Whale.
No, I know, but it just would have been nice to have him, in a superhero movie coming out this year, just to add to that. I don't even know how much of the movie he was in, but, I think the actress that was playing Babs posted a picture recently of those two together on set, and it just,
Yeah, she also posted a photo of the final outfit, because like the image we'd seen of the outfit was like, I assume most of the movie, but for the final act, she would get like a fully more designed thing that presumably Batman like made for her, that was more professional.
Right. God, man. So I was looking forward to that too, to that movie. So
I mean, I kind of wasn't, because I'm just not looking forward to any of the DC.
Yeah,
movies,
but that's where you are with superhero movies.
I'm just sick of them, man.
Yeah,
something else.
Y'all should make Pete watch Black Adam. Make him go through that.
Don't.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch Black Adam. I'm good. Yeah, I wasn't even going to mention that. I'd forgotten it existed.
Yeah. No.
So yeah, there was a Black Adam movie this year, and it came and went with a whimper.
Yeah. I watched it while wrapping presents for Christmas. So
Henry Cavill quit being The Witcher to go be super. I mean, I know it's not the only reason, and arguably it's not even the main reason, but he quit being The Witcher because he thought he was getting Superman again, and then sorry.
Yeah, I had heard though that he also didn't like the direction of The Witcher was going too. On top
Yeah,
of it,
he was a
So-
fan of the books. He wasn't happy with the way they were adapting it and
yeah,
something else like that. So
yeah. So
and yeah, we
but-
have James Gunn in this new position where
Mhm.
he's spearheading and making like a 3-year plan for the next few years for DC movies.
Yeah.
We'll see relatively soon, I imagine, what that roadmap is, and obviously we'll chime in when that becomes
Mhm.
public knowledge. But I think we'll get to the votes. We'll get to what the audience decided was the best of the year. So let's get into it. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to reveal the top 10 books as voted for by people. Obviously, they sent in their top 5s and they got point values, attributed to each entry, and that's left us with the final list here. So we'll see how closely it matches our list. So number 10 is Dark Knights of Steel.
Okay.
So that just squeezed in there.
Yeah.
Number 9 is The Nice House on the Lake.
Okay. A
Yeah.
few spots from where we have it. So I'm curious to see what they put above Nice House.
Number 8 is Batman.
Okay.
Obviously, Batman's a big book. People
Mhm.
like it. Number 7, Dark Crisis.
Guys, I gotta have a talk.
I mean, you say that, but it's a vote, so obviously, not everyone voted for it.
No, I know that, but it being that high, I
In fact,
oh,
that will
nine?
become very
Okay.
clear later that not everyone voted for it.
Okay.
Number 6, The Swamp Thing.
Mm-hmm.
Good job, everyone. Number 5, The Flash. So people are loving The
Hey.
Flash. Yes,
Yeah, let's
up there
go.
quite high. Number 4, Action Comics.
Okay.
Just ahead of it, number 3, World's Finest. So a bit higher than we had that as well.
Yeah, well, a lot a bit higher.
Yeah. So I want to point out here there is a giant gap in points between number 3 and 2.
Okay.
Right? So number 1 and 2 both have an absurd amount of points compared to everything else. Number 2, The Human Target. And number 1, Nightwing.
Yeah,
So
people love Dick.
I think what was the interesting thing to compare there is the books they had that we did not.
Mhm.
They had Dark Knights of Steel, they had Batman and Dark Crisis.
Yeah.
We had what they didn't have in the top 10. Oh, they had it lower down, of course, because I've got it all going the way down to like number 30. But what they did not have that we did is Rogues, Aquaman Andromeda,
Mhm.
and Detective Comics. And Detective's the one that surprises me there, actually.
Yeah.
And Swamp. No, they did have Swamp Thing. They did have Swamp
No,
Thing.
they did.
So yeah, that one's Detective's the one that surprises me, I have to
Yeah,
say.
big time.
But
Big
not too bad, not too dissimilar either. I mean, the top 2 is the same.
Mhm.
And Swamp Thing's not too far off. Action's in the same place. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
clearly it makes sense that our audience who enjoy our discussions on comic books
Mhm.
do align to an extent, whether not every opinion, but certainly with a reasonable amount of it. So
And see, I also feel if Connor was here, him mucking up the Human Target number 1, right? So,
yeah. So I will say, there were points. Some people did vote for Flashpoint Beyond.
Good on you guys. I like the cut of your jib.
Yeah. There were points for Arkham City, Order of the World.
Okay.
There were points for all 5 Azrael fans apparently listened to our show because there was points for Sword of Azrael.
Yeah. I mean, that is Dan Waters. He does have a pretty big fan base, including,
for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah. So a very interesting list to get those results.
Yeah.
I'll give you the top 3 of the writer and artist. So I'll do artist first. So in 3rd place on the artist list is Greg Smallwood.
Guys.
I know.
Number
2, Bruno Redondo.
Okay. So number 1, I'm going to call the shot now.
Go on.
Style is Dan Mora.
It is Dan Mora. I was not expecting you to get that. Yeah, Dan Mora won by a reasonable margin, I would say as well.
I get that because, like, again, we talk about idealized versions, and I feel like Mora's he almost can set a style guide, right, for a lot of these characters, and we got a lot of them in World's Finest because of the story that they're telling. So, his Doom Patrol looked great. Like, I would love a Dan
Oh,
Mora
sure, yeah.
Doom Patrol book.
Yeah, I love that stuff. Writers, in third place,
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy Adams.
Hey, you guys. Good on you.
Number 2, Tom King. And number 1, Tom Taylor.
Yeah,
so,
Agent Saint.
Yeah.
Should be expected.
Yeah. So, yeah, Jeremy Adams beating out, Mark Waid, Ram V.
Yeah. You guys are silly. I love you, but you're silly.
Yeah. Well, and they all did get votes, but yeah, Jeremy Adams beat them. But I can't agree with that. But that's the fun of having the vote. So there was a category which is the worst of DC, and there's no like parameters on this. It's not necessarily worst book. It can be worse than anything, right?
Yeah.
So I'll mention a few of the other ones, but I'll give you the top 3 first. And these did all get multiple votes. All right. Because this one's a bit more open, you get a lot more sort of varied things. So there's a lot of things with just one vote. But number 3 is DC versus Vampires.
Okay.
Right.
I can see why people would feel that way.
And what's interesting is that just missed out on the top 10 as well. So clearly there's a divisive opinion.
And, we liked it the 10th best, but it's also one of the worst things.
Yeah. Number 2, Tim Drake Robin.
Okay.
Right.
People aren't liking that.
And number 1 worst thing, Dark Crisis. So I told you not everyone voted for it, because some of those people were voting on this part.
That is so funny.
Yeah. I don't feel strongly enough to put it in. I mean, it might technically be in the worst in the sense that I don't tend to keep reading books that I don't like. So I suppose technically it would be in the bottom of like what I read.
Yeah.
In some ways, but
Yeah, but it wasn't like I don't feel bad for having read it. Like, it was fine. But as a crisis level event, it was kind of like a whimper compared to some of the other stuff that we've gotten in the past. So
so as for just some of the other things that were mentioned in here that are worth mentioning, one person said the Black Adam movie.
It wasn't that bad, guys. It was mediocre, but it wasn't that
bad. Someone said Legion versus Justice League, which I know was your favorite book. I was surprised you weren't arguing for that earlier. So someone mentioned, I guess it was Justice League by Bendis. I guess that was still going on at the
beginning of the year, because they introduced Lois's brother, who I forget his name.
Because it was going on up until just before Death of Justice League, didn't it? Yeah.
Right, because that was what, 75. So yeah.
Yeah. So someone mentioned the cancellation of Stargirl, which I never even mentioned that earlier. We're talking about TV shows and stuff. That got cancelled too. So that sucks. Someone is upset that there's no proper Teen Titans book. Which
hey, give it time. Give it time. I feel.
And this is probably an interesting one to mention. And this I've not read all of them for the record, just in case you're wondering if if I haven't mentioned yours, don't worry. Like I got them all, but this one's worth mentioning is that DC Universe Infinite's not available worldwide. And I'm so used to having to wait for the UK to get something after the US, but it is easy to forget that there's a lot of other world who waits even longer. So that sucks, but because it is a really good new option for people in the countries that it's available, because it's available US, UK, Canada, I think Australia, maybe some places in Europe, stuff like that. But that was the worst stuff. And then the other category, of course, that they put in submissions for is best non-DC comics. And there is a shit ton of titles here. There was a lot of varied things, a lot of things with the one mentioned here or there. But I will give you a top 5 that are like all multiple people, and there's a few multiple ones that I'm leaving off here to do a top 5. But I'll give you that now. So just let me sort that there. All right, so number 5, we have Something is Killing the Children.
Okay. I gotta start that.
Yeah. Number 4 is Firepower.
Don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is either. Number 3 is Do a Power Bomb.
Hey, good taste, guys.
Yeah. Number 2 is Daredevil. And number 1 is Junkyard Joe.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know what that is either. But people like Junkyard Joe. They love that Junkyard.
It is an Image comic.
Who's by? Who's the team?
That's what I'm looking. That's what I'm looking at. Hold on. It came out in October. Oh, it's coming up at the same time as Geiger, so I'm wondering if this is. It's Jeff Johns.
Ah, okay.
And Gary Frank. Oh, I feel like God, I feel like
it all makes sense.
Right,
it's not a DC book, but there's a lot of DC prodigy in it.
Yeah, so it says it's from the pages of Geiger, Junkyard Joe. Looks like it's Gary Frank and Brad Anderson as the artists. So,
very well.
All right.
Very well.
It's Firepower also from the same team.
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. It would not surprise me one bit.
We're gonna find this out right now. My internet. Oh, that's a Kirkman Insomni book. So fair enough. That's a pretty prestigious team. So
yeah, obviously there was a bunch of Marvel books. There was a bunch of other things I'd never heard of. You know, I don't know what Newburn is, but there was a book called Newburn, and that was one of the many that were submitted.
2022 was the year that I was, got super busy with stuff and haven't been able to read much comics outside of DC. So my list would be very, very anemic here. I did start Department of Truth, so I got that in trade. So, a lot of trade reading stuff now. But a Do a Powerbomb is one I've been writing for. You should check out, Pete, when you get a chance. The trade comes out in March, so very good, very good book about wrestling that you'll connect to as a wrestling fan for different reasons. Definitely has a heart to it, and it made me want to check out Daniel Warren Johnson and his other things. Because this was the whole enchilada, as they say.
All right. Well, I mean that pretty much wraps us up. I mean we've got our top 10, we got our writer and artist of the year, and we've revealed the votes. The actual debating definitely was quicker without Connor. There's no denying that.
For sure. Well, and it helps that we both, we read, our overlap is a lot greater than it is with Connor, and our tastes seem to line up a little bit more, like I don't think I would have had wrong one. Nice House on the Lake, wrong Tynan book. Nice House on the Lake as high, but I know you were big on that book. So, but other than that, we line up pretty easy. I
suppose one last thing is there anything DC related in 2023 that you are looking forward to or anticipating?
Anticipating wise, I want to know where Shazam's going, right? Because as of right now, we only have the Mary Marvel book going on, and that's a mini.
I know Mark Waid has said that he's writing 2 unannounced DC projects, and that they're kind of big deals. So I'm excited to see what those are and delve into that. So, but
that we're Philip Kennedy Johnson's taking action in Superman as a whole. Curious to see where that goes, just because we got through War World, and now those seeds are there, and it seems like there's more things at play.
And I have to imagine Taylor's taking another book. Once his Superman mini's done, and he should be done with Dark Knights of Steel by then, and Deceased is probably wrapping up by then. It feels like he's wide open for another book. So be very curious to see what he ends up doing. But I mean, that's kind of a boring answer, I suppose. But yeah, it's just kind of whatever projects are coming from the creators I like more than anything.
And that's why I said that about Shazam, because I'm curious to see where that is, the state of those characters in DC in 2023.
Because I'm definitely not excited for any of the movies coming in 2023. I will say, I'm not super pumped for the video game, Suicide Squad versus the Justice League. Or I think it's just called the Suicide Squad, but that's what the plot is. Because the Justice League go evil. They're all corrupted by something, so the Suicide Squad has to take them on. But it is notable because it's the last ever performance of Kevin Conroy as Batman, because he recorded that before he died.
Yeah, that's bittersweet.
Yeah, so obviously that's kind of a big deal, which I guess actually that's something we were mentioned earlier on, is we had a Batman death this year. which is it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But we've not had a lot of Batman deaths because most of them have been recent enough that they've been relatively young. But unfortunately, Kevin Conroy passed away a bit on the young side. So it's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, the only other Batman I know that's passed was Adam West, and that was 2017.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and he was Batman in the 60s, so I mean, he should have been first just from the law of time, but
time wise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, so, no, I didn't realize that was going to be his last project, is the game.
Yeah, they revealed it at the Game Awards. The you hear his voice in the trailer, and then they confirmed it afterwards that he did record the audio for it. He's going to be in it.
Oh, wow.
So.
Yeah, bittersweet.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic. I hope it's good. I hope it's good. Yeah. So. Yeah, this Flash movie's apparently going to finally come out.
I don't want to talk about
that. We'll see how that is. There's apparently a Shazam 2 and an Aquaman 2 that are on the cards. Apparently both of them have had cameos edited out because they're not going to be continuing anything.
An early report from Shazam saying that it's I don't want to say surprisingly good, but it is a delight to watch, and in an era where it feels like we're getting a lot of superhero stuff, something that's just fun to watch that's not connected to a million other things seems very, very refreshing. So edit out those cameos, let it be just a Shazam movie, and let it ride. So
yeah, but I'm not going to see any of them day one.
Yeah, no, you got to go see Avatar again.
I've only seen it the once.
Yeah. All right, so. You're telling me you're only going to see The Way of Water one time?
I may see it a second time. I might go and see it again.
Yeah, see?
I need to go see Megan, though, for review first.
Yeah. Need to go see that. It is that time. It's January. You got to go see a silly movie. Like, it's required being a movie fan.
Yeah, but there's a lot of interesting movies coming out this year, but all the, the 15 superhero sequels are not the ones that I am excited for.
Yeah.
Ant-Man 3 can't freaking wait for that.
I mean, I'm at that point when it comes to Marvel stuff. I'm not at the can't wait. I'm gonna go see it. Am I gonna go on Friday night? No, not after what happened at Black Panther. That seriously made me mad. That made me question if I want to go to the movies anymore. Because people can't behave themselves. But yeah, so it definitely won't be on a.
The question is, Matt, is when are you going to go see Avatar?
That is the question that I need to answer. It's not going to be this weekend, but I do need to go see it in the theater. So
you should, yes, on the biggest screen possible.
Yes, we'll see. I do have access to a IMAX. The problem is it is way across town, like a proper IMAX, the 5-story one. But is it worth the trip downtown?
Yes, it is.
On my limited schedule, sir.
It's worth it because it's a very expensive movie and you can see every penny on the screen.
Yes.
So watch it on the biggest screen possible.
I believe it. I mean, yeah, again, it's just getting there. If not, my local theater will be just fine, I'm sure. Like when I went to go see The Fabelmans and every other theater was playing Avatar, I could hear them. So at least the sound was there. So,
Yes. Do it for Ewa, Matt. Do it for Ewa.
Ewa, yeah, sure. Whatever that means. I gotta rewatch Avatar too. Rewatch
Avatar 1 before you see it if you don't remember what Ewa is.
Yeah, no, I have not seen that movie since 2009, and it was the one time in IMAX. So it's there's some gaps there. So.
Yeah, definitely, because it definitely picks up with the the assumption that you've seen the first one. I think so.
James Cameron,
which is I think that's fair. It made $2.7 billion.
Yes, I get that, but he's like, people are definitely watching Avatar before Avatar 2 comes out. I think that's the math that he made because it was so much time in between.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But anyway, this has been your annual episode. It's been a weird one, but. Next regular episode should be back at the normal time this week, so look out for that. And yeah, that's pretty much us. So hopefully you had a good 2022. And if you did or you didn't, hopefully you have a good 2023. So happy New Year, everyone. And here's to another good year of DC Comics. And there's plenty of promising material on the way. So thank you very much for joining us. Of course, I'll thank our Patreon producers for the month before we go. Thank you very much to Tyler Heston, De Palacios, David Sharp, Boardnow, Christopher Moy, David Brown, and Al Treisman. And of course, you can support us just like they do over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. One of the perks, of course, is you get the episode a day early whenever it's ready on the Saturday night before it goes up on the Sunday. But yeah, and of course, you can share us out and recommend us on the Twitters or on whatever social media platform you use. Get us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast. But that is the show. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics. And remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.